to go get one of those lights because
I
does
think,
big
I
difference.
think, hello, I think it's recording. Good evening.
Good evening.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. What is the date today?
I
Oh
think
my
the
gosh, it's December 18th.
18th. Okay.
Yeah.
One day off. One day off.
You got your Christmas tree up today?
Yep. Christmas tree up today. Yeah, kind of most of the decorations up. I got a couple of packages wrapped, not too many. I got a couple more. I had to stash them around the house so that way the boys wouldn't find them. So that was the mission today. They will
Yeah.
pull them out when I need to, and yeah, Christmas tree up and moving, or lit, I should say.
Good deal.
Yeah, and yours looks so cute too. I like the twinkle light. I should have gotten the
I
twinkle.
love twinkle lights.
I just got the white. This is the first year I gave in and got an artificial tree.
Oh, I've never had a real tree, but
Oh, every year. This is the very first artificial tree I have ever owned. And I don't know if I like it or dislike it. The boys like it because they didn't have to haul a new one or, a tree in, set up the tree stand and all that good stuff. This took Brant 10 minutes, not even. And so,
we didn't celebrate Christmas, so I don't really, any Christmas traditions I have are ones that I made myself.
okay. All
And
right.
and so all I know is a tree in a box that,
Yeah. Um,
you
yeah.
know,
Mine come from my adopted family.
yeah.
And mom always had a real tree. And I don't know if she's ever given up the real tree yet. I'll have to ask her. I don't remember. I think the last one was real. Yeah, she's always had a real. But she's also had an artificial downstairs too. So she's had both. So
But I like lights everywhere, and I like this time of year when I can just sit and just enjoy the lights, like turn off all of the lights in my house and just enjoy the lights. I just love it.
yeah.
And it's around Hanukkah too. And Hanukkah, even for Hanukkah, for
Mhm.
people who do both, there's Hanukkah lights.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Hanukkah and Christmas, being so close together, and they're both, they both celebrate lights, and
Yeah.
like Jesus being the light of the world, and Hanukkah is a celebration of lights. And so, like when I've celebrated both of those with my kids and you put them both together, it's just this glorious big celebration of lights and warmth and fried cookies, and it's it's just, while my youngest two kids love Hanukkah, my older ones are kind of, it just goes back to mothering, which is what we're going to talk about tonight. Talk about, what are we
We
going to talk about?
Well, we had started talking about it earlier today, and then we decided to stop talking about it because it'd be a good thing to talk about on here. And
Yeah.
that becoming moms for the first time, and how being raised in the cults
Oh my gosh, yeah.
made us question our parenting skills and everything at the beginning, and how it really influenced our
Whether
children.
we were good or bad moms.
Well, I don't even think it's that so much as like the older children got the more strict military,
Mm,
because that's the only thing we knew. And we wanted our children to be so good. And so we did everything we thought we knew. And well, they kind of
I
got
know.
short end of the
And
stick on one.
I
And
mean, how old were you when you became a mom?
25.
Oh. I think my oldest child has a little bit of resentment towards me because I was strict with her. I think probably a lot of kids that
I
are
think,
the older kids have that. I know that my oldest sister used to complain too that my parents were harder on her than they
yeah,
were us. And we were cult kids.
yeah.
Can you imagine? I don't them
No, I
being
can't imagine.
harder on her.
Yeah.
But she would talk about things like, but like my mom would have things on the table, like decorations on the table and um, things like that. And we didn't have decorations on the table. Hell, we didn't even have tables.
Yeah, I
So
know.
there was nothing for us to be taught to not touch because we didn't have anything to touch.
Yes.
So it was
Yeah.
just different. For me, well, I'll first preface this with we weren't taught about sex, period.
No.
And we weren't taught how babies were made. We weren't taught that penises went into vaginas and that's how it was created. We weren't taught the mechanics of it. We weren't taught that it was one man and one woman that created it. We weren't sperm and egg, none of that. We weren't taught any
Nothing.
mechanics at all.
Why none of us had the language or the verbal skills to communicate what was happening to us when we were getting molested and things
Right,
like that, because we didn't have a language for it. We didn't have a word for it. What
right,
did what do you mean he rubbed his arm or his hand up and down your leg? What do you mean by that? Like,
right.
you know, like
Like, yeah. And they used alternative language for penis. And, like one of the things we used in our home was ponytail for a penis, or I don't know what other people used, but
I don't remember ever talking about it.
it was just
No, there was no nudity, there was no touching, there was none of that. You didn't go and take baths with your younger siblings after you got to be a certain age. Um, Once you hit a certain age, you were taking a shower by yourself. You were very private. Nobody came walking in on you or anything like that. And
so when I was so when we were adults, I don't know how much you knew when you were an adult, but I didn't know anything either. I still didn't know. So imagine going out into the world and still not knowing. And then, getting hit on and, having the hormones and all of that. Well,
yep.
anyway, I met this guy and he, said all of these words to me that I had never heard before. And I thought, oh my gosh, this must be love, and, it just played games with my head and whatever. And we had sex and I ended up pregnant. And the only reason I knew I was pregnant is because I um, figured something was wrong because I didn't know I didn't have my period for a couple months. And I went to Planned Parenthood and they gave me a test and told me that I was pregnant. And I remember sitting in the room, it was just a tiny room, and I had my head in my hands. And they said, "You're pregnant." And I just smashed the wall with my fist next to me without any emotion. Scared the crap out of the lady. Like there was no emotion in me at all. All my emotion went out through my arm into the wall and back down onto my hand, down to my lap. And she's like, "Do you know who the father is?" And I thought that was the dumbest question she could have ever asked me. Like, what do you mean, do I know who the father is? What a stupid question. Of course I know who the father is, because I decided. Like, that's what I thought. I thought I had decided. Like, I just decided who it was.
Yeah.
Anyway, I was 19.
Okay.
And so when I had her, I was 20. I was just about 21. And the father wanted me to give her up for adoption, and that was one of our options. He really pushed for it. We had picked out a couple that we were going to use, but it was never something that I wanted to do. It was not something that, you know, I always knew that if by some miracle something happened, I wanted to keep her.
Yeah.
And when I had her at the hospital, like my little siblings were still like little teenager, no, my youngest sibling was in elementary school still, my youngest ones. And my littlest sister, they like rode their bikes to the hospital, and my littlest sister held her, and she was like, "Don't give her away. I have a paper route. I'll buy her diapers." And, you know, anyway, in the end, I kept her. It was my choice. I kept her. And it royally pissed the dad off. He was angry and he held that against me. But I didn't know a single thing about being a mom, even though I was one of the older kids in our family and raised kids. I'd been raising kids. So the only thing I knew.
Well, were we raising children or were we caretaking children?
Both. I did both. I did both.
I don't feel like I raised. Well, that's not true because, like, yeah, I guess through example, hopefully.
How many times did you hear? How many times did you hear? Did I hear? You're the oldest one. It's your fault.
Oh, yes. Yes. Well,
you're the example.
yes, I heard that. Well, that was the reason why I got kicked out. Because I was the older one.
So anyway, so I was a single mom and had to figure it out on my own. Didn't have a job, wasn't prepared. Ended up living with a friend for a while.
Do you feel like when you had her, your emotional connection to her was as strong as it could have been if you hadn't been in the cult? Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yep.
Like, I was almost afraid, like, I was afraid of my strong feelings. My strong feelings towards Wyatt scared me. For example, holding him. I wanted to hold him all the time. And I was scared that I was going to just, because we weren't supposed to hold our children. We weren't supposed to touch them, hug them, kiss them.
Yes, I remember thinking that I was going to wreck her.
Yes. And I just remember standing there or looking at him going, oh, I just, no, don't touch him. You're going to ruin him. Your sins are going to rub off on him. And I know all that stuff was crazy and I know all that stuff, in my brain, but it was very strong when he was first born. And I had to constantly put myself back in check.
I think that I just kind of went back and forth a lot.
Okay.
I think that for the most part, right away mother instinct kicked in, and I was just immensely awash with, this is my child. I will do whatever it takes, and I will kill whoever for her.
Yeah. Did it scare you, that intensity of it?
No. No, because I knew around the time I was probably 16 or 17, I had known that the way that our parents had treated us or delivered us to abusive situations was wrong. I knew that, and I remember making a covenant with myself that that was wrong and that I wouldn't do that. But once I had her, I just remember holding her, and I just remember thinking like she was the most beautiful thing in the universe. And I know everybody thinks that, but but then, you know, I got her home, and I think back on how I like took care of her. Like I just like propped her bottle, and I didn't really, I held her. I did. I absolutely did. I held her and I rocked her and whatever. But then I would think, you can't hold her too much though.
Mm-hmm.
You hold her too much, you're going to spoil her. So then I would try to put her down. Thankfully, the pull to hold her won, and I did hold her a lot. I mean, I didn't have a job, and so I did. I really held her a lot. But I remember having those thoughts. But
Mm-hmm.
then I also had the same thoughts like, oh, fuck it. Like, she's my baby. Like, I want to hold her. And so I did. But at night, like, I would just like prop her bottle. Because I remember seeing other moms like just prop
Pop
the
the bottle.
bottle. And I think back now, I'm like, well, I have to forgive myself for doing stuff like that. Because, you know, what did I know?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. And then, like, I remember things like when she was like getting to be towards a year old, I'd put a blanket down in the living room floor and make her sit on it
And not leave.
and not
I'd
leave.
say, yeah.
I'd put toys on the floor with her. I mean, at least I gave her toys. We didn't even have
We did
toys.
that. Yeah. Yeah.
But I wouldn't let her leave it. Poor baby.
Yeah.
And she learned quickly that she couldn't leave.
Yeah.
They wouldn't let her leave. Poor baby. But that's how I was raised. That's how I saw. Like, what was the point of that? But
Yeah.
in my mind, I thought that's what I was supposed to do. And so I'm doing dishes, I'm doing laundry, whatever. She has to sit on
Yeah.
this blanket in the living room. And so that's what she had to do. It didn't matter that she was 9 and 10 months old. She had to sit there.
Yep.
And I can't tell you why. So when I say I understand where all of our parents come from, or when they don't have an explanation for, when we say, what the fuck were you thinking? I get it.
Okay.
I freaking do.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I didn't deliver my child to here,
Mm-hmm.
but I did shit. I did minute stuff, like make my kid sit in the living room floor.
Yeah. I think I was over strict.
I was.
You
I was
needed to do
militant.
now, and you needed to do, as I said, now. I was very clean, like, um, teaching him, like one toy out, one toy in, like um Wyatt was very wonderful where it came to that. He was a clock kid to begin with, so the military style suited him very well. And I am immensely grateful. Otherwise, I probably would have ended up with a kid that resented me a lot, a lot. And um, he was somebody who needed a schedule. He was my clock baby. He always wanted to know what time it was, how long it was going to take, blah, blah, blah. Um, but the biggest thing that shocked me and took me by surprise was I personally had never felt such intense emotions before having Wyatt. Um, when you say that you love somebody, I finally understood what that meant when I had Wyatt. When I looked at him, the surge of emotions that took me by storm was unspeakable. And um, the amount of protectiveness I had over him scared me. I knew that I could kill somebody without a shadow of doubt in my brain if somebody hurt him. And I could live on the next day and not care. That scared me
I
when I
think I
realized,
think that when she was born, I finally realized what love was.
okay. Like I always thought I knew
Because
what
I
love
don't
was.
think I had ever been even told that before. Like nobody had ever even said those words to me
Yeah.
prior to I would like, do you know what I mean? Like nobody had
Yep.
ever said I love you to me.
Yeah.
And so I'd never known what love was. And so by me having her, it was a realization to me that my feelings for her was what this is what true love is.
Love it.
This is what love is.
Yes. When you look at somebody and you're going, I'm willing to give up everything for you. Everything.
Mm-hmm.
I'm willing to sacrifice my own life for you.
Yeah.
That that's I and I'm willing to do that for my children. It doesn't matter. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's his life or my life. Okay, there it goes. It's not even I wouldn't even question it. I wouldn't even think about it. It would just be okay, all right, here you go. Um and that's
I want to step different though. I decided that I wasn't going to die for my kids or kill for my kids. I decided I was going to live for my kids.
okay. Yes, because you were battling a different battle than what I was at that time.
Well, I was a smoker.
Okay. And
How many people stop smoking and say I'm going to live for my kids?
okay. All right. Yeah, that wasn't me. I was a smoker. Well, I still am a smoker.
How
Can't say
many people, I mean, obviously I'm still on this earth and didn't commit suicide because of my children, because then they would have been raised by their dad, their biological dad.
yeah.
That kept me here. That is the reason why I had Nikki.
That,
She came at the most inopportune time in my life when I didn't know anything in this world. I didn't know anything about anything. When I came home from Planned Parenthood with the piece of paper that
mm-hmm.
showed I was pregnant, I showed it to my mom. I was shaking, but I showed it to my mom. She looked at the piece of paper and she just tossed it back at me. And as it like fluttered to the floor, she just went, makes me sick. I will never, for as long as I live, remember or forget those words.
Yeah. And as much as your adult brain understands that she was in the cult and she was in that, it still cuts home and it still hurts so horribly bad. And you can say all
And
the logical things you want to yourself, but those words still cut to the core. And you can,
you know what that taught me? When my children fuck up and they come to me, I'm going to shut my fucking mouth and hug them.
yeah. I hope that I have strived to give my children the childhood that I wish I had had.
Yeah.
Now, when I say that, okay, so my oldest Parker, who he's my stepson, but he's my son. He's my baby.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I knew him before he was even a year. I think he was just a year, something like that. When I walked into his life. And anyway, um he triggered a different response than all the rest of the kids. And it might have been because he was the oldest, so he was used to kind of being bossy. Um, but he was a trigger. The older he got as a teenager, he triggered Rama trauma. And he was a trigger for me. And I had to come to grips with that when he was a teenager, at the same time trying to discipline him. And it wasn't until he got to be a little bit older that it hit me that he was a trigger. And so the other kids have not experienced that part of me because I was aware of it before they got to be teenagers. And so my response to them is totally different than what it was with Parker. So I apologize to him all the time because I'm like, I'm so sorry. You got the blunt of my abuse because I was just discovering my own abuse. And I was going through my own realization of things that I had been abused as a kid and coming to realization with that.
Do you really consider yourself abusive?
Um yes, when he would get me to the point of when I would allow him to trigger me to the point of seeing red, where I was in no longer control of what I was saying or my own body actions.
Mm.
Yes, that's trauma to him. He perceives that as me being a bully, me being an asshole, me saying and doing things that are just, it doesn't matter why I'm saying them. I'm still cutting home the same way your mom said to you. It kept home. It didn't matter why she said the things that she said, it still cut home. So, yes,
Mm.
I do see myself as an abusive person when it comes to that situation because I'm the
Mm.
adult. I am the one that's supposed to be in control. And I allowed a teenager to take that control away from me.
Wow.
So, yes, I do see myself. And I find that I look at the world like this in every, like
Mm-hmm.
every single thing in my life. I look at it from the point of view of the other person who's viewing me.
Yeah,
What
me
would
too.
Parker think about me? What would
Yeah.
this person think about me? And it's not to take on guilt, but it's to help me analyze and find out where my problem is and why they're hearing and seeing the things that they're hearing and seeing, because that's not what my intentions are.
Mm-hmm.
So why are my children saying that they are seeing and feeling this? Those aren't my intentions. So where is the breakdown? And the breakdown is always on the adult, always, no matter what, always on the adult. It's our job to make sure that our children understand what we mean. We are supposed to find the communication skills to help them, not them help us. And
Okay, we're
so,
gonna take a break and we'll come back with video 2
okay.
on being moms to our children.